1982, Dominique Wilkins was drafted by the Utah Jazz and picked up by the Atlanta Hawks, immediately traded to the Atlanta Hawks. I was in middle school and just now beginning to tap into my love of the game of basketball. And boy, did this Atlanta player not disappoint. But as good as he was, unfortunately, the opposition that he had to face over the years was much, much greater. Come on in here, let's talk about it. What it do, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. While you in here, slam dunk on that like, comment, subscribe, notification bell so you can be notified every time Hertakes uploads a new video. All right, let's jump into the human highlight reel. Atlanta Hawks has a statue out front and everything. The man really balls. At the time, Dominique was the most athletic player in the league. He really was. He could take the ball with the defense already set, get the ball and drive to the basket with as much force as if he came from downhill and slam dunk on whatever center or other power forward was in that paint. He owned the paint in the 80s. He owned the paint.
Dominique, probably the most difficult cover for small forwards in the NBA. Not just because of his athleticism, because he did what LeBron James does now, going downhill, but he did it in a half-court setting. So they would throw the ball to him on a half-court, and he would just run at you. And guys would just back up, and he could shoot the basketball, and then if you came out, he'd go by you and just dunk the basketball. So for him, he was what LeBron James does right now. He did that in a half-court, which is probably even more difficult because the defense is set.
7-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Star appearance, and 1 scoring title. In his 15 seasons, he averaged 24.8 points per game, 6.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 1.3 steals, all while shooting 46.1 from the field and 31.9 from 3. And you might say, with a talent like that on the squad, why didn't the Hawks do more? With Trae Young, at least we've made it to 1 Eastern Conference final. And clearly Dominique is more dominant than Trae. The problem was the reason why the Hawks back then didn't make it out and get into the Eastern Conference finals is mainly because the East was stacked during that time. You had Larry Bird and the Celtics, and boy did they have some battles. You had Jordan and the Bulls, and we all know how that story goes. You had Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons. You had New York Knicks and Patrick Ewing and that whole squad. You had Charles Barkley and Philly in the way. He couldn't get out of the East. It was just too much. One after the other. He just couldn't get out of the East. And if he had made it out of the East, he would have had to deal with Magic Johnson and Kareem over there. So it was just tough for him. A lot of people say that what happened to him was the fact that, the wrong team drafted him. Now, the Hawks didn't draft him. He was drafted by Utah and then traded to the Hawks. But either one of those teams, small market, didn't have as much help because the Lakers passed on him. Now, what if the Lakers had drafted him? I want to say it was worthy that they took over him. So if he'd gone to the Lakers and played with Kareem and Magic, things might have been different for the human highlight reel. So, with all that going on back then, with all that, the opposition being so stacked and talented, it was just unfortunate for Dominique and the Atlanta Hawks because, he definitely had the tools. The pieces around him were really good as well. It was just too much opposition. He helped himself though. I mean, he got a scoring title while here. He got him in 85 and 90. Should have got that one in 87. But of course, the voting and everything gave it to Jordan. I will continue to say that second battle that he had with Jordan, he should have won. Jordan got a 50 twice for the same dunk. He did that. If you go back and watch the film, he did that half court from the free throw line, one hand, his famous dunk that's on the shoes. He did that twice. He had utmost respect for Dominique. Dominique and Jordan had much respect for one another. I've got the proof. Jordan even got a shoe. You can get a Jordan 1 that named the human highlight reel. So they have utmost respect for one another. They really, really do. So Jordan clearly respects him. He don't really too much give his shoes to anybody, put his name on any, for anybody to get the shoe. It's honestly a nice shoe to have. It was good to watch those battles going back and forth back then. That's when some really, really good basketball was played. Nice competition, friendly fire. I remember watching the Boston and Hawks games going back and forth. Bird, Neek, one of their playoff runs went 7 games down to the wire, where Bird and the Celtics was just a little too much for us, and they got us by a bucket. I mean, it was a lot of nice battles going on back and forth back then. From 82 to 91, the Hawks would go, make it to the playoffs and go on playoff runs 7 times, but never made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it just goes to show how tough it was back then. They just never did give up fighting, in that time span. In 1992, Neek would tear his Achilles. The injury heard around the world. But miraculously, in 10 months, he was able to, even back then with the medicine not being what it is today, he was able to recover in 10 months, come back. He averaged 28.1 points per game the season after his injury. Then he got traded, and once by the time he finished his career after getting traded, he averaged 16 points, 4 rebounds. So even when in the end, he was still being productive. It just goes to show his heart, his motor, and how he takes the game so seriously. Dominique and Al Horford are the 2 Hawks players that I ever hated seeing getting traded away, that I feel like the city hated, that the most noise that the fans was just upset about getting traded away. Dominique will go on to get a statue outside the building, which is great. To me, he's the #1 Hawk of all times. Trey get a ring here, maybe that'll change, but right now he's the #1 Hawk of all times. All in all, the human highlight reel did his thing. The man could flat out hoop. My favorite player coming up, growing up. Like I said, I was in middle school when he got drafted here, and wasn't too much into basketball, but then my interest started to peak as I got on into high school. Owe it all to my dad. Back then you had one TV in the house and dad watching basketball. Hey, you watching basketball too. But anyway, that's all I got. Don't forget to slam dunk on that like button. Comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, stay safe. On to the next one. Peace.
It's so fitting for Atlanta to be having a statue out for him because he's so Atlanta. That's him. That's his city.